Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm waking up. I mean, I do have makeup on. We were talking about that earlier, but I got to put on makeup, which is I think that was what I was most excited. It was I don't put on makeup unless I'm gonna get online with somebody. So
Uh,
otherwise,
yeah. See, you've beaten me. I have still have pajama pants and slippers on my bottom because it's 7:30 in the morning here. And yeah, this really nice thing going on. So I'll maybe have a shower and make myself a bit more presentable after this. So you
I
you
I
win.
haven't mastered the top knot thing yet. I whenever I try to do it, it just looks a mess. So
Yeah, see,
yours is cute.
I usually can't. My hair's usually shorter than this, but haircuts are not an essential service. And my last haircut was booked for March 24th, and we went into our prime minister announced lockdown on March 23rd. So
Oh my gosh. I know. I got a notification on my phone on last week, April 8th. Your hair appointment is at 3:50, and I was like, "Oh, so sad." So I messaged my hairdresser and I was like, "This was like the saddest thing ever." Who knew?
all right. So we just managed to completely skip intros. So
Oh, yeah, sorry.
everyone, for those of you who have not seen this lovely face before, this is the lovely Natalie Walters. Natalie writes romantic suspense, and so even if you haven't seen her face, you may have seen books like this floating around on the interwebs. Her third one, which I don't have a copy of yet, just released. When did it release, Natalie?
March 31st.
March 31st. So you have had a whole series come out in 8 months?
It feels like 8 months. It feels like I think the first one came out in May. It's all three have been released within a year.
Yeah.
So May 2019 was the first book, and then the last book was March 2020. So three books within a year.
Wow. Okay, well, let's talk about that first, since we're there anyway. Three books releasing in a year, that is crazy times, and the third one releasing into the middle of a global pandemic.
Yes.
How's that been? Because this is your first book released in May
Yes.
last year. So you've just gone 1, 2, 3 in
Yes.
8 months.
Yeah. So when I got the contract, this is my first series. So when I got the contract, I had no idea what timelines looked like. Mostly because you spend the majority of your time on your first book when you're trying to get that contract. So I had spent 4 years or whatever writing book one. So I didn't know what the timeline possibility would be for the second and third book. And so my agent was like, "Oh, if you could get the books out in this time, this would be really great." And I was like, "Oh, sure, no problem. I could do that." Not realizing in my head that I was going to have a huge move across the country with my family. My daughter was going to be sick, like just life in general. And then even life moments. I think I turned in book two. I turned in book. When did I do? Turned in book three in May of last year, when book one was releasing. While I was doing edits on book two, my oldest daughter was graduating from college and then getting married 2 months later. So all of this stuff was happening, huge, big family moments or whatever. But it was very hectic. So, but kind of fun and neat to be able to get, the books out quickly. I think it was a whirlwind. I don't really know what happened very much if it wasn't a big life family event, I don't know what happened.
So tell us a little bit about the series for the readers who have not met the people of Walton, Georgia.
So the series is based in Walton, Georgia. That is primarily like the main connection between the three books, because they can all be read standalone, but they can be read in sequential order as well. And it's a small town in coastal Georgia. It has it's I would say probably the population town like 10-15,000. So it's like everybody's in your business. Everybody knows all of your secrets, or you're really trying hard. It takes a lot to keep your secrets a secret. A gossipy town, but also a town that has a really strong sense of community and helping each other out and supporting one another. So as each of these stories opens, you kind of have a character who's struggling with something, and then the community, which can kind of be a thorn in the side for some, it actually turns out to be kind of a great support system, which I think sort of developed because our family is military. So wherever we've moved, we've had to sort of rely on our network of community, whether it's the military or where we're living, to kind of fill in the gaps for the family connection that we're missing. So I think that's kind of where that happened. And I really love that, because I think for the most part, many of us are transient. We move for jobs or whatever. So building that community is really important for me and in my stories.
Ah. So you mentioned you'd had a big move in the middle of all of this. Where from? Where are you now?
We moved from Fort Lee, Virginia, which is all the way on the east side of the United States. And we moved as far west as you possibly could get, probably. And we live in Honolulu, Hawaii, and Oahu. So it was a big move. But this is where we're at. We're on an island and locked down just like everyone else is.
So tell us a bit about that. I mean, obviously Hawaii's a bit more protected than the other states in terms of the fact that you are an island like New Zealand.
Yeah.
What's your situation there, and what is your shelter in place or lockdown kind of requirements?
So it was very weird. I think when everything kind of started hitting the United States, we went on spring break a little early because we were supposed to do college tours for our son. He's a senior this year. And so we went to Texas for spring break. And then like, as soon as we landed in LA for our like layover, and then we got to Texas. And by the time we hit Texas and I turned on my phone in the airplane, it like blew up with like all of these like NBA seasons canceled, the whole world is canceled. And I was like, what happened in the 3 hours from LA to Texas? And so we got to Texas, at that point it was still pretty early on in the lockdowns. And so we were able to kind of get through that. And then they started locking Texas down. And so we weren't sure we were going to actually be able to fly back to Hawaii, but we did. And then when we got here to Hawaii, at that point, most of the mainland, like New York, Texas, some of the bigger cities were really going into lockdown. We were seeing, big numbers, and Hawaii was trying to kind of figure out like what to do. And at that point, the airlines started dropping the like ticket prices to Hawaii, like by a lot. Like it was, I think, to fly from the mainland to Hawaii, like $200 or $300 round trip. And so the governor of Hawaii was not happy. The mayor was not happy. And they were like, we don't want people traveling here on their cheap tickets and bringing, stuff here. So very quickly, the state government here started implementing like, hey, if you're traveling in here, we're going to start requiring 14-day mandatory quarantine in your hotel, or if you're a resident coming in, you have to stay in your home. They shut down the beaches and our parks, which was a huge deal. I mean, it's Hawaii, it's an island, and we're in our spring and summer, getting ready to go into our summer season. And so most of the people who live here, their water, my husband, he wants to be in the water. He in fact told me on Friday, he's like, I got to get out in the water. Like he's having he's having fits, and but they're like telling you, oh, you can go out and exercise. And it's kind of like, what do you do? So the beaches are closed, but you can walk through the beach to get into the water. And so you're still able to like actually get out and swim or surf or paddleboard or whatever. But the parks, the beaches are closed. I think my husband, so he's military, so he's been kind of coordinating the COVID-19 stuff here for the Asia Pacific area. And he said that they had a plane come in a couple of weeks ago. It was like they had on Friday night, they had only 1,500 people fly into Hawaii. 85 of those people were tourists, and then the rest of them were residents returning home or for work or whatever. But I think our industry, like, because we thrive on tourism here, 95% down for flights coming in with tourism. So we're definitely seeing people are, doing what they're supposed to do. But I just I just had a little alert that like 2 people in Kauai were arrested because they did not follow the quarantine. Like they landed and then they went to the grocery store and they were arrested for going to the grocery store because it's supposed to be locked down in their hotel and they didn't do it. So, I mean, they're taking it serious here. And I think that's really good because I think our numbers are, holding pretty low considering where we're at,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so you guys are heaps like New Zealand in the fact that tourism's like one of your lifebloods.
Yes.
I think. And we rely a lot on tourism out of China. Like we have a lot of tourism in from there. So I think that got shut down for New Zealand. And honestly, time kind of blurs. I feel like it was late February, but I could be wrong. But it was around the time where it was kind of our peak tourism. February is kind of our end of our summer. And also all of our international students coming back in as well for the start of the university year in March. And the government just put a kind of a border restriction on China. Like China and Iran, I think, were the first 2 where they were like, no, you just can't come. And so that just saw our tourism industry. I think they dropped like 40% overnight. And then it's just completely been decimated. Right now it's gone. It's in...
Right.
It's in hiatus, to put it nicely, because there's no international tourism because our borders are now effectively closed, and people in New Zealand can't travel either. We're all at home, so
right.
That's,
my husband went yesterday to the North Shore. They went out to go paddleboarding, and North Shore Haleiwa area is it's all tourist. Like if you're not a local, like because it's like country, like it's like the country part of Hawaii. And so if you're not living there, then it's just all tourists. And usually like the traffic is it's like a 2-lane street. It's just old surf town. And there's little shops there. And he said they drove in and he said that they're like literally like the strip center shops are they're empty. Like the stores are like all the merchandise, like the stores have like shut down. Like there's not even existing there anymore because he said primarily he thinks that was because they served the Asian population because we're a big hub for tourism from there. And he said that's the only thing he can think of because it's like they're empty, like the whole store is cleaned out. So it's very strange.
It's gone. My brother will be incredibly jealous to hear that you guys are still allowed in the water because we're not here. So we've had surfing, swimming, like everything is banned.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's kind of strange how they pick and choose like what. I mean, if you're in the water, if you're surfing, you really technically shouldn't be near someone, kind of. I mean, although you kind of get puddled up a little bit. But I know even like the park situation, they were like, no, we don't want people walking through the parks because if you let one person, then it's going to be 20 people. And then it's going to be, I've seen pictures out of California where people are, it's like a crowded walkway because it's only the walkway.
Right. All that. Yeah, I mean, the rationale here, as we've been told it, is that they don't want people doing anything that could result in them getting in trouble and needing, to be rescued effectively. But the whole surfing community are like, well, like, we don't get in trouble. Like, we're usually the ones rescuing other people. Like, when was the last time a surfer needed to be rescued? So my brothers started like a nationwide petition to reopen surfing, which I think the last time I saw it had got like a few thousand signatures. So we'll see. But I mean, he lives near the beach and he's just like, like surfing by definition is social distancing. Like you don't get within 2 meters of another surfer. So.
Exactly. It really is. I mean, you shouldn't be surfing by somebody. You know what I mean? Like you take the sets in or whatever. So I can understand his pain. My husband would totally understand. My husband would sign his petition.
So what's life like for you at the moment?
Well, I mean, I wish I could say that like it's much different than what my normal life is. It hasn't been. I'm pretty much an introvert anyways, really only leaving the house like if I have to like drive my daughters to class or whatever. But although I will say that I feel like I was way more productive back then than I am now. I feel like my creativity is kind of like zapped. It's so hard to like actually sit there and want to like get into like the fiction space in my head to write a story, even though I know like I've got to like write. But it's weird because as an introvert, I don't mind staying in my house when it's of my own accord, of my own decision. But when someone tells me like I can't go out, then I want to go out. I'm like, well, I want to go to the coffee shop. Like I want to go do this, and so that's been a little bit harder. I don't know why that is. Like I think it's like, oh, well, you can't tell me what to do, but
it's a choice thing. You're like, I can choose to stay in or I can choose to go out. But when you don't even have that choice, you're like, oh, well, actually, I quite like people now.
Right. And here it's kind of, and I don't know how it is in New Zealand. I hope to one day find out, but here, like our selection of like takeout food or pickup food is very limited in that it's all the same stuff. So it's not like, so I really miss that about being on the mainland where I could pick like, oh, if I want Asian or I want Italian or I want, barbecue, I have all those options. And here I'm very limited in that. So I've had to cook probably more now and then be really creative because the food items just aren't like available like they normally are. So, being creative, like, oh, well, I couldn't find this in the store, but I have this. Or I was telling a friend yesterday, I was like, I have black beans and garbanzo beans. What can I make with black beans and garbanzo beans that my kids will eat? And most of the time they're like, yeah, no, Mom, we're just going to have a fruit roll up.
Yeah. I mean, ordinarily we have a great variety of takeout food, like, except barbecue. We don't really do barbecue here. But all of it shut. So when we went into level 4 lockdown, they shut everything except for supermarkets, pharmacies, gas stations and doctors.
Oh, so they don't even have restaurants and stuff open?
No, there's nothing. I think that was one of the things that caught a lot of people by surprise is because we'd kind of been watching the US and other places. And so I think people had kind of assumed that, that you'd still be able to get takeaway food, whatever that may look like. And then the Prime Minister was like, no, it's all shutting down. And people were like, you see kind of the typical like male in their 20s who live on McDonald's and Burger King.
Right.
You're just like, I don't know what you're going to eat for the next month. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how you're going to get through this.
They're all going to learn how to cook. Like they're going to be on those cooking shows, like trying to learn how to cook. It's really interesting because so when they started like shutting down and I would risk the chance of going to Costco, like the big, shopping area, and I get stuff. My mother-in-law she lives in a retirement facility and they're taking really good care of them, food wise or whatever. And our schools have opened up to kids to pick up meals, during the day for the schools. And then I was like, but my daughter is a college student and they have food pantry. I mean, it's very expensive to live here. And so they do have a food pantry at the university. And I was like, these college students who probably work at these restaurants have all been like lost their jobs now because there's no tourism. They don't know how to cook. They don't have the money. So I was like, so I picked up a bunch of stuff to donate to like, for that demographic. Cause I was like, these kids are, I picked up, cause if they can't find toilet paper, like nobody's finding toilet paper, so I picked up what I could, like, it's limited. Like you can pick up one thing of canned food and one thing of like noodle food. So I picked up some stuff and I went to go donate because I was thinking like that's the demographic that sort of gets missed in these, like the senior people are kind of getting taken care of and the children are being taken care of, but you've got these 20-something-year-olds who are like, I don't know how to cook, and then they're away from home or whatever, and so,
And I used to work at Burger King, and that's where I had my dinner.
I mean, really, it was. You usually would take something home, or you would eat. That was your meal, and so it's been kind of interesting to see how this is all panning out and how people are, working to make things happen. So
So you mentioned that you've found it hard to get into the creative process, and you have a new series under contract. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I have a new series. The manuscript is due in September, which feels like it's a long ways away, but I feel like it's not, especially with everything going on. So it's different than my Harvard Secret series. Harvard Secret is a small town, Walton, Georgia location, more of a tighter community story. So neighbors knowing neighbors, people knowing each other. My new series is the Strategic Neutralization and Protection Agency series, which that's what I call them. We haven't officially titled the series yet or the book, but that's what we're going with right now. So it's the Snap series. And it's more global and national in threat level. So it's an agency based in Washington, D.C., and basically they are hired by private corporations, by the government, to take care of issues before they become issues. So they're constantly monitoring, threat levels, different things that are happening. And then if they see threats, they go in and they figure out what it is, and then they neutralize it before it becomes an actual issue that a government agency has to take care of. So they kind of go under the red tape of not having to report to anybody. And they have a little bit. And so the team is they're all specialists. So I have a weapons specialist, ordnance specialist. I have a acquisition and logistics specialist who's a networker. I have a former Navy cryptologist who does all the computer hacking stuff. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. It's just a little bit bigger in scale in regards to the threat level. So trying to write that, it's interesting because I got a letter from our agency, and he was like, please be careful if you're a newly acquired author or newly writing a story to not just write all about COVID or viruses because it will date your story.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had to think about that because I'm currently in edits on Start With Me, which releases in June, and it's set around a bunch of events, that do not exist in the world today, like the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, for example, that features in there. So I took a look and I was like, is there some way that I could change it? And I was pretty fast. I was like, no, like this story just can't happen in a COVID world. So we're just going to pretend that there's no COVID. Right. This is fiction. I could do this. And I saw actually another author say on Twitter recently, she was like, if all of you are worried because you've got books releasing in the next few months to year and you're wondering if you should put COVID in, she's like, I would just like to remind you that there were 10 series of Friends and 9/11 did not happen in Friends. I'm like, all right.
Yes, that's true. That's really true.
Yeah, and I think 9/11 was like maybe their third-ish series. I can't remember season. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is fiction. I do not need to have a global pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the reality is we all lived through 9/11. And so we're not looking, I think when I watch Friends, it's sort of an escape from it's not, I know, and I think that's how it is now. Like even I really limit how much television or like news, I'm not television, girl, I'm binging all the shows, but the news, I limit on how much I actually take in because I know what's happening in the world. I know what's happening in our home, and I can see it, and I'll take 10, 15 minutes just to update on the news, but I don't need to like watch it. And so when I'm watching a television show, it's to escape. And same thing with reading fiction books. I don't need to read about it. I know what it was like.
Yeah. We have like a 1 p.m. press conference every day by our Prime Minister and our Director General of Health. And that has become apparently like the most watched thing in New Zealand because everyone's like, our Director General of Health, his name's Dr. Ashley Bloomfield. He's now got his own fan club called the Bloomers.
Who knew it would take a pandemic to make
before 2 months ago, nobody knew who he was unless you worked in the in the health sector. Now he's a nationwide name. But
I think internationally known because even in the United States, people know about what's happening in New Zealand. So I mean, he's going to be internationally. He'll be invited to big Hollywood events and.
Yeah, so everyone tunes into that because he's just this very straightforward, just straight shooting, just states the facts, gives us the update on the numbers without any kind of the media filter and dramatization. And it was so funny the other day because at one of our press conferences, one of the reporters asked him what his thoughts were on some of our Instagram influencers saying that COVID-19 was caused by 5G, the 5G network. And he just was like this. He didn't even answer. He just looked at her for about 5 seconds are you insane? This furrowed brow. And our Prime Minister like jumped in after a few awkward seconds, and she's just like, okay, it's just not true. I feel like ridiculous even having to address this from this podium, but it's not true.
That's gonna be like the meme across, like that's gonna be the meme across the world. Like, what? Like, repeat.
I know. So yeah, he's just like, there's massive profiles about him in all of our papers, and Twitter just are all about Dr. Bloomfield. He took a day off a couple of weekends ago. He took a Saturday off. He'd done like 40 days in a row of just, he'd worked 40 days in a row. And like people were just like, but what am I going to do without my 1 p.m. update from Dr. Bloomfield? Like,
oh no, he's so much stress, so much pressure.
They had to issue a press release that Dr. Bloomfield was fine. He was just taking a day off.
They thought he had the COVID, like not the COVID.
Oh. So yeah, it's been but yeah, I mean, similarly over here, like I'm like if you wanted to, you could just live in the COVID-19 news cycle 24/7.
Yeah.
And especially because you're at home and everyone's at home, and so you're not doing a whole lot of your usual things.
Right.
That otherwise would, in a sense, take your mind out of what's going on in the world. Like you just like your options for spending your time once you've done work and looked after the kids and all the rest of it are somewhat limited. So
right.
Actually, no, I don't actually need to, spend all of my time reading all of the latest things.
Which all say something different.
Yeah.
So even if you were listening to it, you could listen to it and 5 minutes later it's going to be something different. So I think that actually is more frustrating just for people in general, because then you're like getting all this information. You're like, okay, I'm just going to do what I need to do and stay in the house. And that's what I just keep telling my kids. I'm like, we just stay in the house and we do our part. This will all get over much quicker than if we disobey the orders. So
does your lockdown at the moment have like a lifting date, or is it just rolling?
So I feel like we potentially have like the end of April, like April 30th. And I say that because my son, who's a senior in high school, they're technically until April 30th, and he's supposed to graduate. Like the end of school is May. I think his graduation was May 22nd is his commencement ceremony. So, so they were technically going until April 30th, and then they will make another announcement. But I feel like they sent an email like last week, and the state of Hawaii's education board gave each school the option to, based off of third quarter grades, they could, and if the student is in good standing, I think for seniors, they could technically say you're done with school, like we're going to go ahead and graduate you. That decision has not been made yet. So that's where we're waiting for. And I think that they said that they're doing another meeting probably this week, and then they'll make an announcement on April 15th. So we're going to find out whether or not he's going to have a commencement ceremony. We had like families all booked their tickets to fly to Hawaii like in January. So we're trying to figure out like what that's going to look like. But like personally, even if they were to be like, okay, yeah, we're going to have a graduation ceremony, I hesitate to even think about bringing that many people together into a, it's out at the stadium, but there's like 500 seniors, maybe, 500 seniors or 1,000 seniors or something like that. And then times their family members. And I don't know how it is in New Zealand, but like in Hawaii, like it's like you and like 45 of your closest family members, friends. And so it's just like, so it would be like, we'd be bringing together like 25,000 people for a graduation of like 500. I was like, I don't feel like I would be this close to like the, to like, oh, we're all better, to like, let's just throw everybody into a melting pot and hope nobody has it.
See what happens.
Yeah, we'll just take our chances. So I'm sad for my son. Yeah, I'm sad for my son, but I feel like he's been pretty easygoing about it. I don't know what we're going to do because I even asked him, like, what do you want to do? Like, and I think what we'll end up doing is once this whole thing lifts, if there's not an international day of celebration, like COVID, like Independence Day or something like that, the whole world celebrates, we will in fact throw a party, you know, a big party for him and, you know, celebrate. But I kind of feel like there's going to be, I feel like there has to be like a day where it's like an Independence Day of the world. Like the whole world is set free, you know, and it'll be a day that we always remember in history. It's when we all it's like New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, but like it's Independence Day, World Independence Day.
Independence Day. Someone will need to bring Will Smith in to lead the
yes
lead preparations.
That's right. Lead the music, lead the dancing, and lead the celebration.
Oh. So final 2 questions for you. What is keeping you sane right now, and what do you miss the most?
Oh goodness. Probably what keeps me sane right now is junk television. Just trying to, you know, I'm catching up. Usually I'm behind on everybody's television shows. Like someone will be like, oh, I'm watching this. And then I don't end up watching the first season until like the 10th season's already been released. So I'm in the middle of Parks and Recreation right now, which is, that's been out for a long time, but I'm watching that, and that's a lot of fun to kind of take your brain off it. So that does keep me sane. And the thing that I miss the most, gosh, I think probably my kids not bugging me every 5 minutes. Like my daughter is like, mom, and she's 20 years old, and I'm like, Kiana, like, what do you need? And she's like, they're bored.
Yeah.
And even though I'm working and I have things to do, they are bored because they're like, my son, he's doing online schooling, and I quote that because it's like his teacher was like, do something that makes your heart happy. Play a video game, watch television. I'm like, that is what he has been doing. Like that is what he's been doing.
He does not need your permission to do
right.
that.
Like and so he literally gets done with like the 1 or 2 classes that he has in like an hour, and then it's just like I have to be their source of entertainment. I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's what I miss. I miss like not having to like be all the things to my children in this time when they're bored out of their minds. Oh.
And what is keeping you sane?
Just the crazy shows.
Crazy shows. Sorry. Oh, you're frozen.
And I hope that like this is gonna end. Oh, did it freeze?
That's all right. You're all good now.
Okay. I just think probably keeping me sane is being able to watch the crazy television shows that I'm watching, and then, you know, the hope that this is going to end at some point. Like, I don't feel like it's going to go on forever. So
no, I mean, it has to.
Yeah, it has to. And I do. And I'm not normally a numbers person, but I have been watching, like, I watch the percentages of like, okay, how many people are, you know, getting sick and how many people are recovering. And, you know, my daughter's in the health field. And so, you know, 80% of people being diagnosed are recovering. And so I feel like that's really hopeful news. And I rejoice every time I see a little dip in like New York's numbers or any numbers in the United States. I feel like that's something to celebrate. Like, okay, that's good. Even if the numbers kind of go up the next day, I still rejoice in those like little dips, because I feel like, okay, we're doing something, you know, we're doing it, we're getting it right. This is going to end, and it'll be a good day when it does.
Yeah. So, well, and on that note, all right, I'm going to give away one of Natalie's books to one of you guys. I don't have Silent Shadows here, but that's on an option as well. So leave a comment with which book you would like, and we will draw a winner, or I'll draw a winner in a couple of days. Thank you. Thanks for your time. It was lovely seeing you.
Yes, I know. One of these days we'll be able to see each other in person. I'll bring you Oreos, and you bring me New Zealand chocolate.
Yes. And you can come to New Zealand, and you know, you can come help, you know, restart our tourism industry.
I would be happy to do that. Honestly, if these ticket prices stay this way, I'll be booking it and just keep changing it until the release date, and then I'll fly.
Sounds good. All right. I'll see you later.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.